I'm marrying my mistress who is a CEO's daughter. You're no longer needed, Robert said triumphantly over the phone. I could almost see his spiteful smirk. I'm finally catching a break. Staying with you, I would have remained a mere employee forever, but now I'm going to strive as the next CEO, he said with a laugh, as if my presence was the reason for his lack of promotion. Robert always had this weak spot in his heart, blaming others for his problems. I used to forgive this trait when I still loved him. But that's not the case anymore. My patience has run out. I can't forgive Robert. I have to take action to make him realize. My name is Maria Ross. I just turned 40 a few days ago. I married Robert when I was 25. I quit my job when our first son, Andrew, was born, but after having our second son, Charles, I started working part-time at a local supermarket. Living on just Robert's income was a bit tough. Both our sons are enthusiastic about studies and sports, and I look forward to their future. But Robert was indifferent even to them. To be precise, he lacked interest in the family. Naturally, he barely spoke to me, only exchanging minimal greetings daily for the past few years. Charles's school was organizing a class observation day. I had reminded Robert repeatedly. Let's go see it together. Got it. That day, we both took a day off to attend the class observation. But the night before, Robert changed his tune. One parent attending the observation is more than enough. I'd rather not go. Why are you saying this all of a sudden? Charles was excited, thinking both his parents would come. But why bring it up all of a sudden? Despite my condemning gaze, Robert remained nonchalant. I'm busy. Don't lump me in with old part-timer ladies. What are you talking about? I retorted jokingly, but deep down, I was hurt. At that time, I was almost 40. And for 15 years of our marriage, I mostly worked. This caused us to drift apart, and eventually, cracks appeared in our relationship. That's exactly why I invited Robert to Charles's class observation. I wanted to reconnect with Robert through Charles. Yet, Robert responded coldly. If you don't like being treated as an old lady, maybe you should care more about your looks. I'm fine being an old lady, I replied, sticking out my tongue at him. After Robert left, I sighed alone and looked in the mirror. A worn-out middle-aged woman stared back. In addition to my part-time job, I had been caring for my mill until last year. She had worsening dementia, and her nighttime wanderings kept me from sleeping well. My mill sleeps during the day, so she's not much trouble, but at night, she's up walking around all the time. Better than being bedridden. Mom wants to exercise, Robert would say, and concerned about his own mother, and go back to sleep. I was the one who suffered. With age, balancing the part-time job and caregiving became too hard, and we admitted my mill to a nursing home, though it pained my heart. Visit me sometimes, my mill said anxiously. I do take the boys to visit her as often as possible, but Robert has never gone. I attended Charles's class observation alone. Robert came home later than usual, smelling of alcohol from drinking with colleagues. Andrew was acting sneaky, and Charles, following his brother's lead, started treating me distantly. They're both at that difficult age. I was worried even though I knew I shouldn't interfere too much. Eventually, I decided to confront them. All right, what are you two hiding from me? Well, Andrew and Charles exchanged glances, and they resignedly said, It's almost your birthday, Mom. We pooled our allowances to buy a cake. What? I was surprised, glancing at the calendar. I realized my birthday was in 3 days. Honestly, I wasn't thrilled about turning 40. Yet, I still managed to smile. I was happy with what boys were trying to do for me. On my birthday, the boys brought the cake as promised. We even tried to decorate the room, Andrew said proudly. Despite their clumsy efforts, the room was adorned with paper decorations. I was overwhelmed with happiness, until Robert came home. What is all this? He exploded as soon as he entered. I'm tired. I want to relax at home. What's with these ridiculous decorations? But today is Mom's birthday. Is she celebrating her birthday at her age? Must be nice. Robert spat out, tearing down the decorations on the nearby wall and tossing them in the trash. No. Clean this up now and bring me a beer. Hold on. You trampled on the boy's thoughtfulness. I was raising my voice. It was just too cruel. Didn't he feel any pain seeing his son start to clean up so forlornly? What's your point? Sure, I'm 40, a full-grown adult. I may not be the age to fuss over birthdays, but I was happy with the boy's thoughtfulness. Wouldn't you feel the same if they celebrated your birthday? Just the thought of that disgusts me. Robert grimaced exaggeratedly, complaining about the slow cleanup before continuing. I don't want to waste my time on you guys. Just leave me alone. How could you say such things? I was taken aback. The boys looked like they were about to cry as they cleaned up the decorations. Then, Robert spotted the cake on the table. I'll consider this a bonus for my hard work today. No. Andrew and Charles's eyes widened in shock. In front of our astonished faces, Robert grabbed the cake and stuffed it into his mouth. Charles started crying, and Andrew was patting his back. Andrew's eyes were also teary. What are you doing? You should be dieting anyway. Don't eat this kind of stuff, Robert said with a smirk. This is how he ruined my birthday and the boys' efforts. Despite always talking about work, Robert's income was never impressive. He showed no signs of getting a promotion and seemed to be the subject of ridicule among his peers. When drunk, he would grumble about this. I wish I could talk to Hannah. She'd listen to me seriously. Holding a beer can, Robert said this. I was shocked. Who's Hannah? Paying attention, I realized Robert was close with a woman named Hannah, a young colleague at his office, apparently fond of him. In his drunken state, he went on about how wonderful Hannah is. Unlike you, she's beautiful, honest, and adorable. What exactly is your relationship with her? I wish I could marry Hannah. Then I wouldn't have to deal with this house. I would definitely move out here, Robert said with a hateful look. I didn't have any words. Drunk or not, I couldn't believe he would confess his infidelity fantasies. The next day, Robert seemed embarrassed, vaguely remembering praising Hannah extensively while drunk. I'm leaving for work. Enjoy your day with Hannah, I said to Robert. He glared at me silently before leaving for work. At this point, I was sure of his affair. If she were just a colleague, he wouldn't be praising her appearance like that. He obviously found her attractive. But even with this realization, I found it hard to decide on divorce. What would the boys think? I suddenly remembered the recent birthday party he ruined. Since then, the boys have been avoiding Robert. He was always indifferent to family, maintaining a distance from the boys. After this incident, the boys completely closed off their hearts. Yet, Robert was still their father. Should I have cut ties easily? I was torn. And then I realized that my worries had been for nothing. On my way home from my part-time job, I got a call from Robert. His words were blunt. I'm marrying my mistress who is a CEO's daughter. You're no longer needed. What? I couldn't grasp the situation for a moment. My farts frozen. How sudden and absurd it was. Yet, Robert continued as if it were an irrefutable fact. I'm finally catching a break. Staying with you, I would have remained a mere employee forever, but now I'm going to strive as the next CEO. Is Hannah the CEO's daughter? I was again taken aback. It was clear that Robert was having an affair with Hannah, but I never imagined she was of such high status. No offense, but Robert, with his average income and looks, plus being middle-aged, he didn't seem to match up with a boss's daughter. You said Hannah. Well, yes. You've been all about Hannah lately. Oh right, Hannah. There was Hannah too. Robert's phrasing was odd, as if there were other women involved. Anyway, I'm divorcing you. Okay, goodbye then. I agreed to the divorce easily. I hadn't forgiven Robert's selfishness. But it was the opposite. I never forgive Robert. This was my first step away from him. I thought the boys would understand my decision. Robert came home with divorce form. I signed my name without hesitation. He pushed a boy's custody onto me, which was expected, so I wasn't surprised. When I explained the situation to the boys, they responded with I knew it. Dad never really cared about us. Don't get reckless. Yeah, I'm here for you. That's our line to you. Andrew spoke with concern. Mom, don't be sad about divorcing Dad. You have me and Charles. That's right, Mom. Thank you. I was teary-eyed at my son's words. A month had passed since my divorce from Robert. My life hadn't changed much. I sent my sons to school and did the household chores. Then, on my way home from my part-time job, Robert called. His voice was pure panic. "Help, Maria. Hannah is." "What happened?" I asked him. Today, Andrew was cooking dinner, and I couldn't wait to get home to enjoy it. I was eager to get home. Hannah came to my house, and my wife found out about the affair. That stuff. I nodded nonchalantly. In truth, I had expected something like this. Suspicious of Robert's behavior, Andrew and I had followed him. We discovered that the mistress he wanted to marry wasn't Hannah. Hannah was just his colleague, a normal family's daughter. She is pretty and young, which apparently led Robert to infidelity. The CEO's daughter he was talking about was in her late 30s and not particularly beautiful. How did Hannah find out? I did it. I said it as if it was nothing. What? I told Hannah the truth, with evidence photos included. Robert raised his voice at my words. "What have you done? My wife is furious, and I've been kicked out of the house. I'm even fired from my job. You deceived your wife, so this happened." Despite sounding like a victim, Robert was at the center of the problem. I sighed. "How long have you been deceiving Hannah and your current wife? That's none of your business." "Well, that's true now. Because we were divorced, I fought that with a wry smile. But you were cheating even when we were married. What did you think of me and our sons? Just nuisances. Marrying you was a mistake. What's wrong with trying to correct a mistake?" Robert whined childishly. He was always a child, never admitting his faults, but whether he admits it or not, others won't ignore his wrongdoings. "I've lost my job and house, and my next job is uncertain. My wife told her father, the CEO, who's pressuring other companies not to hire me. Is that my concern?" I asked him, serious yet detached. Robert was shocked. "I mean, I'm not your wife anymore. We should each handle our own problems now." Saying that, I ended the call. Robert tried to call back several times, but I ignored him. Instead, I received a call from Hannah. Robert came to my house. He wanted to get back together. "That's quite audacious of him," I replied, astounded. I could imagine Hannah on the other end, wearing a similar expression. Of course, I rejected him. Told him never to come back. "You did the right thing." I nodded in agreement. After venting her frustration about Robert, Hannah's voice softened. "I didn't know Robert was married." "I know you didn't. We were all deceived. All of us were victims of Robert, and there was no reason for us to dislike each other. I'm sorry." "It's fine. Don't worry about it." I ended the call with a bitter smile. Robert's current wife also contacted me. She expressed her emotions more strongly, lamenting over her separation with Robert and the fact that she was deceived. Her strong voice made me think that Robert had truly picked the wrong person to deceive. One day, after learning that my ex-mill was unwell, I headed to the facility where she was staying. This staff looked troubled. We tried contacting her son, but he just told us to handle it by ourselves. "That's why you contacted me." "Yes. We know you're divorced, but there's no one else we can talk to." "I see." Although I divorced Robert, I couldn't bring myself to dislike my ex-mill. Before her dementia, she was a strong-willed woman who taught me how to cook. The boys were also fond of her. "Hi, I'm coming in." When I entered the room, I heard her groaning. She was trying to get up from the bed in the back of the room. "Don't strain yourself. Maria, didn't you divorce my son?" she said to me. Her voice was anxious. I nodded and approached her bed. "Yes, but you are still the boy's grandmother, and the facility informed me you were unwell." "It's just a cold. I'm getting better now," she said, coughing slightly. The cold was obviously not gone. The staff mentioned that Robert was reluctant to pay for the facility, making it impossible to take her to the hospital. "I'll pay. Let's take you to the hospital. But get well soon, so you can play with the boys again," I said with a smile. Her expression brightened at my words. "Okay." After confirming her nod, I left the room to speak with the staff. A few days later, I visited my ex-mill again. To my surprise, Robert was there too. However, the conversation was appalling. "Mom, could you lend me some money, just a little? Why do you only show up when you're in trouble? Don't be mad, please," Robert continued in a cajoling tone, unaware of my presence at the door. You have Dad's inheritance, right? Give it to me. Don't say such ridiculous things. My ex-mill snapped back, her anger overpowering her illness, giving her clarity. That money is for my grandkids' education, they might go to college. And for Maria, who is kind to me. She's a stranger now. Even as a stranger, she's kinder than you. She spoke resolutely. The inheritance will go to my grandkids. You won't get a penny. Mom. Robert's plea was futile, but it was in vain. When she noticed me, she smiled warmly. Please take care of the boys, Maria. Yes, I will. I nodded solemnly. Robert tried to intervene but was ushered out by the staff, suspicious of the situation. I later learned that before her condition worsened, my ex-mill had consulted a lawyer. Despite Robert's persistent visits, her decision remained unchanged. Returning from school, Charles exclaimed in a voice like a scream, "Dad came to school. He suddenly said we should live together." Really? Given his previous indifference, it seemed unlikely he suddenly felt lonely. Plus, Charles was set to inherit from my ex-mill. Robert likely wanted to bring Charles back for the inheritance. Were you okay? Yeah, I ran away. It's definitely weird, Dad wanting to live with me. Charles didn't know he was an heir. Yet he sensed something was off about his father's sudden appearance. He might go to Andrew's place too. Right. I hurriedly got ready to pick up Andrew. Stay home, Charles. Don't open the door for anyone. Got it. Leaving Charles nodding at home, I hurried off on my bicycle. Andrew was confronting Robert in the middle of his route to school. Their expressions were tense. Go away. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Don't say that, please. Robert reached out his hand towards Andrew. Andrew ran away from Robert. Hey, stop. Help me, there's a strange man here. Andrew. Andrew, calling his own father a strange man, was understandable. Robert's past behavior had led to Andrew's current reaction. Andrew noticed me. And he clung to my arm. Mom, get rid of that man. Robert, enough is enough. I stood protectively between Robert and Andrew. Robert glared at me, grinding his teeth. It's none of your business. Let me talk to Andrew. Andrew is my son. I've been raising him since he was born. Robert never even held baby Andrew. I was left to raise Andrew alone while Robert spent weekends out, leaving me swamped with childcare. What could he possibly want to talk about now? Probably trying to convince Andrew to disinherit himself so Robert could get the money. Andrew, call someone over. Okay. He nodded and ran off. As Robert tried to follow, I warned him. If you keep bothering my family, I'll have to call the police. What? Robert's face turned red with rage. You ruined my future. You brought it on yourself. Robert's current situation was the result of his lies to 3 women, including me. But he couldn't understand that, unable to admit his faults, remaining a childish man without progress or growth. Over here, Andrew returned with several men. Robert suddenly became timid. He tried to run away, but he was surrounded by them, and they eventually taken him to the police station. Robert was recognized as a stalker and forbidden from approaching or interfering with us. As a precaution, the boys' school teachers agreed to drive them home. Sorry for the trouble my ex-husband is causing. No, it's stuff for Andrew and Charles, the teacher said. Robert still calls, but no one in the family responds. With the help of others, we've successfully kept Robert out of our lives. On our day off, my sons and I visited my ex-mill. She was dozing off, but when Charles approached, she showed a smile. Glad you came, Charles. Andrew too. It's been a while, Grandma, Andrew said, starting a conversation with her. The staff mentioned her condition was gradually worsening. Eventually, she might forget us. But until then, I wanted to create as many memories as possible with her and the boys. After spending time with her, it was time to leave. Walking down the facility's hallway, the boys seemed restless. Mom, can I? What's up? Charles hesitantly took my hand, and Andrew grabbed my other hand. Hey, that's not fair, Charles. I want to hold hands too. What's this all about, you two? I felt a ticklish sensation in my heart. I remembered how we used to walk hand in hand like this when the boys were little. Can't we do this once in a while? Sure. We started walking, chuckling together. Looking back, it's been a long journey. Juggling household chores, parenting, caregiving, and part-time work for 15 years. And the outcome was bittersweet. Robert betrayed me and left, but still, I can smile. Because of my sons are with me. I'm not alone. We've nurtured this bond, laughing together. I vowed to never let go of this bond.